Hello, everyone, and hello to everyone on Zoom. Welcome to the UCSF Academic Senate 2024 Distinguished Faculty Award Ceremony. I'm Sonam Prakash. I'm a clinical professor of hematopathology in the Department of Lab Medicine here at UCSF and a member of the Committee on Academic Personnel, commonly known as CAP. We're all really honored today to present these awards to our distinguished faculty. The Academic Senate Distinguished Faculty Awards recognize exceptional mentoring and teaching by UCSF faculty. Today, we will present the Distinction in Mentoring Awards, followed by the Distinction in Teaching Awards. I will give a brief overview about the awards and introduce our winners. You will hear a lot more about our winners from their nominators and the winners themselves, which would be the main part of the ceremony. The Distinction in Mentoring Award was started 15 years ago in 2009 by the Academic Senate and the Committee on Academic Personnel. This award is to recognize and celebrate exceptional mentoring by faculty to faculty and by faculty to clinical and/or postdoctoral fellows. This year, the Academic Senate did not receive any nominations for the Distinction in Mentoring Award in the Associate Professor category. Instead, the committee chose to recognize 2 faculty in the Full Professor category for their mentoring achievements. Our 2 Spring 2024 recipients of the Academic Senate Distinction in Mentoring Award for faculty at the rank of Full Professor are Dr. Rebecca Sudore, the Professor of Medicine at the UCSF School of Medicine, and Dr. Alicia Fernandez, Professor of Medicine and Associate Dean of Population Health and Health Equity for the UCSF School of Medicine. The Distinction in Teaching Award was established over 65 years ago in 1958 and annually recognizes exceptional Senate faculty members who have shown distinction in teaching. The Spring 2024 Academic Senate Distinction in Teaching Award for faculty at UCSF for 5 years or fewer goes to Dr. Rosny Daniel, Dr. Daniel is an assistant clinical professor in emergency medicine. The Spring 2024 recipient of the Academic Senate Distinction in Teaching Award for faculty at UCSF for over 5 years is Dr. Conan MacDougall. Dr. MacDougall is a professor in the Department of Clinical Pharmacy and co-vice dean for PharmD Education and School of Pharmacy. Congratulations to our award winners. We will start with the first award category, Distinction in Mentoring. The winners of the Distinction in Mentoring Award are selected by a review committee that is chaired by a member of CAP and comprises 1 full professor and 1 associate professor from each of the 4 schools at UCSF. The nominees for this year's award were all truly outstanding, and I am really honored to introduce the winners and their nominators. I would like to introduce Dr. Sarah Sadeghi Noori, MD, MPH, who is the nominator for Dr. Rebecca Sudore. Dr. Noori is an assistant professor in the Division of Palliative Medicine and specializes in caring for people with serious illness in both the outpatient and inpatient setting. She will share a few words with us about Dr. Sudore. Dr. Noori.
Thank you, Sonam, for the introduction. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Rebecca Sudore for this well-deserved Distinction in Mentoring Award. Rebecca has been my mentor for the past 6 years, already feeling a little emotional. So I'll say that many of Rebecca's mentees contributed to this nomination. Then I'll start by sharing what was at the core of every letter, every blurb, every email that Rebecca's mentees sent me, and that's gratitude. So I'll start by saying on behalf of many, Rebecca, thank you. Pull up my other notes. Still somehow getting used to PowerPoint Live since our Zoom days. So over the past decade, Rebecca has mentored over 70 students, residents, fellows, and faculty. Her research program is so rich and innovative and her generosity with it alongside of that provides a research platform that so many mentees can learn from and grow their research careers from. As I read through everybody's contributions to Rebecca's nomination, there were a few key themes that stood out. The first is that Rebecca knows and cares about her mentees as people. She knows our whole selves. In true form, as a palliative care doctor, she listens and she helps us center our own values in our decisions. As I reflected on my own experience and read about experiences described by her other mentees, it's clear that in doing so, in taking the time to understand us as people, Rebecca serves as our biggest advocate. And one of her mentees who worked with her as a research assistant for several years before becoming a doctor wrote, as you can see here, a letter from Dr. Sudore is the Midas touch because she believes in us and knows us on such a deep personal level that she is our strongest advocate. Rebecca's unflinching belief in her mentees and the attention that she provides us engenders hope, which is essential in building our confidence, our work ethic, and frankly, our joy as junior faculty, trainees, and students. One mentee succinctly described Rebecca as a beacon of light. Another wrote, Rebecca helped me to believe in myself during a time when I was experiencing burnout and moral injury during residency. That is no small feat. It may not surprise you then to hear that many of her mentees describe her as a friend, or that over 90% of Rebecca's mentees have remained in academic research positions. Her close attention to and belief in her mentees also allows her to give feedback that is always constructive and never punitive or judgmental. Rebecca's a very meticulous editor. If you've ever sent her anything, you know you'll get it back with a lot of tracked changes. But even her most comprehensive or her most major feedback is not discouraging. As one mentee put it, she always leaves me more enthusiastic about my work. The last theme I'll share is that Rebecca builds community through her mission-driven approach to her work and to her mentorship. The core of her own research is health equity, and she demonstrates this over and over again in her approach to research and in her deep partnerships with community members, patients, and caregivers. Her mission-driven approach and her genuine dedication to improving the care of older adults has dramatically moved the needle in her field. As one mentee shared, realizing that advance directives are too specific for all the decisions that might be important for people with serious illness, Rebecca ran a Delphi panel with international experts to redefine the advanced care planning process in her, quote, free time, unfunded, just because it was important and the right thing to do. That tells you a lot about Rebecca. She is dedicated to mentoring from people from groups that are underrepresented in research or medicine. Just over the past 5 years, she has mentored 10 people who identify as being from underrepresented in medicine backgrounds, 12 who identify as being from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, and 36 who identify as women. And her mentorship goes beyond this individual level. We may traditionally think of mentees as people within academia, but Rebecca's mentorship extends far into the community. She has established programs to actively support and provide opportunities to anyone across the country, from high school students to university faculty who are interested in aging and aging research. She has built close working relationships with our local government and many community organizations. I feel I've barely touched the surface these past few minutes in sharing why we nominated Rebecca for this mentoring award and why she so genuinely deserves it. In borrowing again from her nomination packet, Rebecca is extraordinary, unfailingly generous, humble, kind, intellectually brilliant, and unmatched. Thank you for all that you do, Rebecca.
Crying before I get started. I think I have to, well, first of all, Sarah, that was so beautiful and so sweet. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I have so much gratitude for this award because honestly, nothing means more to me than mentoring. I feel that no other accolade, no other award that I will ever get is more important to me than this. And I'm just so grateful. And as I was thinking about this talk, I was reminded of this proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And I think that's why I love mentoring so much, because we get to go together. In this talk, I was asked to talk about my strengths and my approach, as well as challenges that we might see. And because all I really need to know, I learned basically from my mentees and my mentors, I thought it made sense to talk about what I've learned from them and how that really informs my mentoring and my research program. It also gives me a chance to thank at least some of the people that have kind of helped me along the way. And I think for any kind of mentoring approach, it really does take a village. And I think you'll see in these slides that there are some people that come in and out of your life for just one interaction, and some who have been lifelong mentors. So I think I will start with the ultimate mentor, which is my mother. She was a single mother of 5 children, and she really instilled in us a really strong work ethic. She had gone to trade school and was a dental hygienist, and she didn't know much about the college process, but she was really instilled in all of us kids the importance of either a trade or some sort of education. And she has sort of unwaveringly given me support unconditionally, regardless of my career path. So she has always said and continues to say, as long as I'm happy, she's happy. And that has really gone a long way. I went on to community college, and I thought that I was maybe going to be a dental hygienist, but I wasn't sure. And so I took some additional science classes, and I was lucky enough to take a class from Dr. Art West. This was in physics, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. And I was in his office hours so often that I became a friend of both Art and his amazing wife, Helen. And Art saw a potential in me that I didn't even know I had. I didn't know that I could pursue higher education, and he really inspired me to go on to think about a medical career. And he and Ellen are still incredibly good friends of ours and provide Johnny, my husband, and I sage advice to this day. So I was lucky enough to go on to medical school. And in my first year of medical school, I was working with the UCSF student-run homeless clinic and was lucky enough to meet Jackie Tolson. She was donating her time to help us start a women's homeless clinic. And we realized very quickly that we didn't have the right patient education materials, that they weren't written in a way that people could read and understand. And she helped me get a summer stipend so that I could work on that problem. And I worked with the San Francisco Public Library and their adult literacy program. And that really sort of set my whole career in health literacy going forward. And I found this quote in the San Francisco Journal newsletter that I think really sums up Jackie. It said, "I didn't know how to solve these problems, but I could bear witness. What's the best we can do for this person, given where they are?" And again, I think that just sums her up so beautifully. And I think one of the things that she taught me is that, fostering righteous indignation can really be a powerful motivator for our mentees. And then there's Dean Schillinger, who I think deserves maybe the Patience Award of the century. I started working with him during residency. I had never worked on a research project before. And I remember the very first paper that I sent to him, the entire thing came back in red track changes. There was not maybe one word that I had written on the form. But he somehow stuck in there with me, and I think really told me that it's really important to have patience, particularly for those maybe diamonds in the rough that just need a little bit more of investment of our time for them to reach their potential. And I also want to thank Bob Brody, who also at that time had incredible amounts of patience. We had worked on our very first draft of our easy to read advanced directive. And people were like, what is this thing? And the ethics committee and the forms committee, you know, were kind of questioning, what is this? It doesn't look like our normal legal forms. And Bob really helped us to get that through, and again, really started my career in advanced care planning and health literacy. I also wanted to thank a couple people, Steve Chantelout and Jean Kuttner. So in residency, I was lucky to have Steve as one of my very first attending. And at that time, he was just starting the Comfort Care Suites and started launching the palliative care care units here at San Francisco or at UCSF. And it was the first time I realized there are better and more humane ways that we can talk with patients, we can help them with their goals of care, and we can care for people. And that again really changed kind of the trajectory of my career. And then I went to the Society of General Internal Medicine meeting around the same time. And I was paired in a one-on-one just for like a 45-minute meeting with Jean Kuttner. And she was trained here and she's now at Denver Health. But it was the first time that I realized that like you could take geriatrics and palliative care and mix them together into a research career. And I realized it really only takes one person and sometimes one interaction to really, really make a difference. I then went on to do my geriatrics training, and I did research training. And Seth Landefeld was the division chief at that time. And at the time, the majority of research that was going on in our division was working with large data and secondary data sets. And at the time, I wanted to do a randomized control trial of our easy-to-read advanced directive. And I remember Seth sat me down and said, you know, that's not really what we do here. But if that's what's important to you, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. And so when I look back, I think, you know, they could have sort of forced me or tried to steer me into this other kind of career that I didn't want. But it really, again, just, you know, showed me that's really important that we support our mentees in following their own passions and their own path. And I've also learned a lot from Ken Kavinsky. So he was the inaugural sort of director of our UCSF Pepper Center in Aging. And he's worked with a lot of these large data sets. But what's been nice about it is it's really created this platform for many different mentees to ask many different questions and to build on that platform. And I think that's been a really good model and something that we've tried to do with our Prepare program. The other thing that Ken did is he helped me get a diversity supplement for economic disadvantage. And that was one of the things that really kickstarted my career and allowed me to come onto faculty. And those things like the seed funding through the Pepper Center is really, really important. And Mike Steinman and Louise Walter also kind of help with the Pepper Center. And I think those pieces of funding, I think, are incredibly important. And when I think about what are those challenges, I can say it doesn't matter what division, what department, what university. When I'm talking to my mentees, it is that seed funding to kind of help people get onto faculty that is the most important thing. And I'm just incredibly grateful to the Pepper Center that has provided some of that funding for my mentees, the UCSF KL2 program, Leah Carliner's Center for Aging and Diverse Communities. There's RAP grants, there's GEM stars, the diversity supplements. And then we just learned of this really kind of innovative Trans Institute palliative care seed funding mechanism that's going to be hosted by the NIA for palliative care. So if anybody's interested in palliative care in the next year or so, let me know and we can hook you up. I also have to give a big shout out to John Buscardin. He's a senior statistician in our division. And I have to say that John has been involved, I think, in almost every paper and every grant that I have ever written. And there's really no substitute for an amazing statistician and really helping to find statistical support for our mentees. And I also want to thank James Tulsky, who I met also randomly, was paired up with James through a Robert Wood Johnson Faculty Scholars Program. It just happened to be a strange coincidence that Jackie Tulsky was his sister-in-law. We didn't know that ahead of time. But what James did, I was right in the middle of my K Award. I was thinking about writing my first R01 and thinking about doing a larger trial. And what he did is he shared all of his stuff with me. He shared all of his grants, he shared all of his IRB protocols, he shared his job descriptions for his research assistants, and that has made all the difference. And really, again, taught me that we have to provide mentees, in addition to concrete skills, just sort of like practical examples for the day-to-day research. I also want to give a shout out to both Tung and Alicia, both people who are very much committed to doing community-based research and have really sort of hammered home how important it is. That, again, working with mentees, telling them that we can't sit in our high tower and think that we know all the right answers. We have to go to the community. And you'll get to hear more about Alicia. But I've known Alicia since I was a resident, and she was my chief resident. And I don't think that there's been a room that I've been in with you or a committee that I haven't been on with you that I haven't learned something new. And your dedication to health equity is just amazing. And it has really taught me that really health equity is all of our responsibility. It doesn't matter what kind of research you do. And finally, I want to talk about Christine Ritchie, who really taught me what it means to cultivate whole person mentoring. I met Christine during a leadership retreat that was part of the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine, and she was assigned to our group. Her mother had just died, and it was a really hard time. And I remember that she showed up as her authentic self. She was sad. She was having difficulty, and she never tried to hide any of that. And by her showing up as herself, we could show up as ourselves. And I feel like no matter, she was able to work here at UCSF for a while, and then she returned to MGH, but no matter how busy she is, I know that she always has my back, and I know that she really cares. And I'm really grateful for that. Thankful. And finally, I want to get back to the best part, which is thanking my mentor. As you can see, what an amazing and cool group of folks that I get to hang out with. I think the thing that I've learned from them is that building community is what it's all about. So the more that I get to mentor, the more cool people I get to meet, and the more community we build. And honestly, that is what makes it all worthwhile for me. So I just want to take a minute and thank the people that helped with this nomination packet, either with a letter or had a quote. So definitely thank Sarah. It has been such a wonderful, amazing ride that we've had so far. And I'm so excited about all the things that we'll get to do together. I want to thank Krista. I have more to say about Krista in a moment. Neka Uferi, who's from Harvard. There's Becky DeBoer. Thank you for coming, Becky. Alexis Colley, Hillary Lum, who's at UC Denver. Crystal Brown, who's at UT Texas in Austin. Vicky Tang, Anup Shashadri, Ashwin Kapwal, Kaya Uchi, also at Harvard. James Harrison, Lanxing Lee, Annie Walling at UCLA, Ryan McMahon, Angela Swen, and Jiayun Xu at Purdue. And I think what's also cool is that we get to learn new things from our mentees. All these things that I would not have known. So I get to learn about hepatology and palliative medicine and surgery, and Vicki has become a life coach, so I get to learn about life coaching, nephrology, qualitative research, pulmonary and critical care, emergency medicine. Becky's doing amazing things in global oncology, particularly in Rwanda, OBGYN, and urology. And I think what's also super cool is when our mentees become trusted colleagues. So it's been so wonderful, Krista. As Krista has become my co-director of our Vulnerable Aging Research Core of the Pepper Center. And our core is focused on implementation science, and Krista brings just amazing amounts of her expertise in qualitative research, and it has been a wonderful partnership. Thank you. Hillary Lum started out as one of my mentees. She's doing just amazing research using the electronic health record and doing things in advanced care planning. It's been fun to be able to put each other on each other's R1s. And Annie Walling. We just finished being part of a very large pragmatic trial in the UC system. And when we started this trial about 6 years ago, she was just sort of starting her research career. And it's been wonderful to see how she's grown into leadership positions, and we're starting to scheme about our next step together. I also want to say that our staff deserve our sponsorship. I think that we know that none of our research would get done unless we have staff. And many of these people want to go on to higher education. And I have to say that, you know, I am so proud of the fact that dozens of our staff have gone on to medical school and have gone on to PhD programs, including, there's a picture here of Brian McMahon, who was one of my very first research assistants. And now he's back doing a geriatric and palliative care fellowship, and we're continuing to do our research together. That is super fun. And I really want to end by saying that peer mentoring is essential. I see some of you folks in the audience, and I can't tell you how much it has meant to me to have you in my life and to help support me through all this, all the ups and the downs. And I think it's one of the things that we can foster in our mentees as well. Just people doing amazingly cool things, and we all need some peer mentoring. So I just want to end by thanking my husband, Johnny. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for always being there. And again, I just want to thank all of you so much. This means so much to me. Thank you.
We have a certificate for Dr. Rebecca Sudore from the Academic Senate in recognition of her outstanding mentor. Thank you, Dr. Sudore, for such a speech, and for your nominator for such a touching introduction. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Marlene Martin, MD, who is the nominator for Dr. Alicia Fernandez. Dr. Martin is an associate professor of clinical medicine at UCSF and a hospitalist at San Francisco General Hospital. Dr. Martin is going to join us via Zoom, and let's see if we can do this.
Thank you, Dr. Prakash, and good morning, everyone. I met Dr. Alicia Fernandez over 10 years ago during residency. Her mentorship has shaped my professional trajectory and personal growth. That is why I am so thrilled to be here today to introduce Dr. Fernandez, Professor of Medicine, Director of the UCSF Latinx Center of Excellence, and Associate Dean of Population Health and Health Equity for the UCSF School of Medicine, one of this year's recipients of the Distinction in Mentoring Award. Next slide, please. Here you can see some of the many qualities Dr. Fernandez's nominators used to highlight her exceptional mentorship. Notably, several described her as an advocate, a visionary, and a mentor who provides tailored, excellent, and committed mentorship. These are just a few of the qualities that make Dr. Fernandez so deserving of this award. Next slide. Dr. Fernandez's mentorship is a personalized journey of growth and empowerment, tailored to the unique needs and aspirations of each of her mentees. Dr. Manuel Tapia shared that she not only mentors, she advocates tirelessly for the representation and empowerment of underrepresented groups in healthcare. This relentless dedication has not only inspired us, but has also catalyzed tangible change in our community. This is represented by her being the founding director of the UCSF Latinx Center of Excellence, which leads myriad mentoring programs that are shaping the next generation of medicine. It is here that she closely mentors Dr. Tapia, Dr. Raul Gutierrez, and myself in our areas of interest. Dr. Fernandez's mentorship is special for transcending the boundaries of medical specialties. Dr. Wan Lee, for whom Dr. Fernandez has been a research mentor since anesthesia residency, shared that she has an extensive network of colleagues spanning various disciplines. She selflessly connected me with those colleagues to create opportunities for me to engage with professionals and researchers beyond our immediate field. These cross-department and cross-institution collaborations have been a great support for my research endeavor so far, and she fosters this cross-pollination for many. Next slide. Dr. Fernandez inspires her mentees to pursue excellence through her unwavering belief in the potential of those she mentors. Dr. Amy Beck described, Dr. Fernandez embodies all the qualities of mentorship excellence. Her meticulous attention to detail, coupled with her passion for driving meaningful change, set a standard of excellence that inspires us all to reach greater heights. Her visionary leadership and infectious advocacy have encouraged countless fellows, faculty, and staff to make meaningful contributions in their respective fields. Next slide. Dr. Fernandez is committed to the holistic well-being of her mentees. Dr. Elaine Kung shared, I have never doubted that when I approached Dr. Fernandez for advice, whether related to advancement, clinical care, or adjusting to a changing family life, she was providing her thoughts with my best interests in mind. I know she is invested in me as a person, not just an academic collaborator. She equally celebrates my academic successes and personal milestones. This beautifully illustrates Dr. Fernandez's unwavering commitment to her mentees' well-being and growth. Next slide. Dr. Alicia Fernandez inspires her mentees across research, advocacy, clinical care, and equity. Dr. Fernandez, your dedication, passion, and unwavering commitment to mentorship have been transformational and inspire us all to believe that sí se puede. Yes, we can. On behalf of the many who nominated you and who you have mentored, congratulations and thank you. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Fernandez.
Oh, thank you so very much. I'm profoundly moved and honored, and thank you, Marlene, for such a generous and truly beautiful introduction. I like my wonderful colleague, in whose company I'm honored to be, Rebecca Sudore. I just feel that this is an award for all of us, and truly profound, one of the most moving awards I've experienced. I worried a little bit about what to say, and then I realized that I really agreed with the person who said, if you want to be seen, stand up. If you want to be heard, speak up. And if you want to be appreciated, sit down. And I feel appreciated, and we'll keep this brief. But I really do need to start by thanking Marlene Martin and the others who nominated me, be they my research colleagues, my exceptional what we're now calling clinician public health practitioners, including Raul Gutierrez, who's here, and Amy Beck, who's a researcher, and Kevin Grumbach and Neil Paul, who supported the nomination as well. And I really want to thank all of my current mentees. I mentor in a very niche field. I am my NIH type work, my most researchy type work has been in language barriers in healthcare. And because of that, because there aren't so many of us in this field, I've been very fortunate to work with people from across the country who are interested in this work, and from many disciplines. I have surgeons and orthopedists and OBGYNs and internists, as well, of course, as medical students and residents. And I'm profoundly grateful to them, and they share a commitment to science, and they share a commitment to social justice, to doing research that matters, that over time we hope will change things. And that includes the staff and our programs from the Latinx Center of Excellence. The shown here is Connie Calderon Jensen and our young staff, who are just inspiring in everything they bring to the work we all do together. So thinking about this talk, the Academy, the committee gave us some questions. What are our strengths and areas for growth? To talk a little bit about mentoring across differences, and also to talk a little bit about the challenges we foresee for our mentees. And I think the key elements that work for me in mentoring relationships are clear. I don't feel like I have a clear framework, but I realized as I was doing this talk that maybe I do have an implicit conceptual model, and that is to think about the work we do, and to see how the actual work fits into people's lives and their ability to shape a career that makes them feel, that makes them have more meaning in their life, that expresses their passion. So as I said, I don't have a conceptual framework, but I do immediately have a metaphor, a visual that has, I think, always been with me. This is a drawing, an idealized drawing of an ombu tree. This is the only type of tree that grows in the Pampas in Argentina, where I'm from. And this is a idealized painting with the two gauchos there. This is what these trees look like. The Pampas are all flat, and every once in a while, you see one of these trees. But if you look at them up close, what you'll know, and this is an ombu that is planted in front of the building of the National Congress in Buenos Aires. If you look at this ombu, you'll realize, one, you might realize it's not a tree, it's actually a bush. And it has this network of roots. And I'll show you later the network of branches. And it's such an obviously clear visual for what mentoring means to me. The roots and growth that I have come from and experienced, the branches and the expansions into new directions, be it pediatric obesity or addiction medicine, the shelter and support that they provide for little animals and birds in our communities, and that I think all of the team, all of the people I mentor provide for our students and research assistants, and of course the fact that they are an impact in that flat landscape. They stand out and are visual for all. And that made, of course, thinking about the roots made me think about the people who have mentored me. And like Rebecca, there have been many, but I want to shout out 3 of them who have been exceptionally important to me in my career. Many of you may recognize Alicia Fernandez. I think this is when he took office at the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparity. Alicia was a professor here for many, many years and was a faculty member here when I was a resident, and immediately took me under his wing, and I could call him and complain about what a hard time I was having, and he encouraged me to think about a research career, and that I would enjoy it, and that it was a worthwhile thing to do. We were very much kindred spirits. He remains a close personal friend, and I've been so lucky to have him in my life. Thomas King, you all know, and he hired me, but he did much more than that. I was coming out of fellowship somewhat failed fellowship in general medicine here. And in as much as that I really did not enjoy it. And he hired me and then mentored me through my early years on faculty. And he had the office then at San Francisco General on the fifth floor. And at the end of the day, I would go and knock on his office and he would open the door and I would talk about all the things that were going wrong and occasionally some things that were going right. And I think about it now and I think, oh my gosh, such generosity that I could just walk in and he never made me feel that he was busy. And I got to hear all about the road to Abilene. Many of you may know that this salvage story, where all these people are quarreling about how to go on the road to Abilene. And then we discover that actually no one wants to go to Abilene anyway. And I also got to hear about how to put rocks in a jar and to start with the big ones first. And I've been diligently trying to start with the big ones first ever since then. Really, truly a wonderful, and between him and Eliseo, they got me through those very, very difficult early years on faculty where I felt that I wasn't sure that this was the right place for me, and and found many interactions truly, truly difficult. And then I want to shout out Kevin Gumbach, who mentors me now, and who is a font of wisdom, also a font of patience, and continues to put up with me calling at odd moments saying, can I talk to you? I really don't get this. And is extraordinarily generous with his time, with his guidance, and with his belief that what we do here needs to make a difference. I am very grateful to each of them for the roles they have played in my career. My roots, of course, go further back. These are my parents, Paulina and Hector. They were both children of immigrants to Argentina. My father from the poor areas of Spain, Andalusia and Galicia. My mother from what is now what my grandparents would have said, well, we're Russian Jews, emphasis on the Jews, and now would be a Ukrainian who helped construct one of the largest Jewish communities in the New World in Argentina. And they were themselves working class people, the only people in their family to get any education. My grandparents had none. And they had a very 20th century belief in science, and that science and medicine as an application of science was enlightenment. And they also had a profound, perhaps also 20th century belief in progressive change, that together we can come together and as communities and make lives and change the world. This is something that they gave, the legacy that they gave me, and I continue to think about them every day and think about their and strive to make their beliefs true. My immediate family, many of you will recognize Dr. Teresa Villela from Family and Community Medicine and our beautiful, inspirational daughter, Emilia. And they're both on Zoom. And they nourish me, support me, and above all, they inspire me every day. And my chosen family, as well as my sisters, Rebecca Fernandez and Dr. Leonor Fernandez, who is also an academic general internist at a hospital in Boston, sorry. At Boston. So from these roots and these branches, what can I say to my mentees? What are the challenges that await them? I think they're the same challenges that we've always had. Maybe now these are difficult times, and specifically for the challenges for the next 5 years, these are going to be very difficult times, both in the United States and everywhere. And in those difficult times, it's hard to construct your professional life and to integrate your professional life into the rest of your life. One of the things I wish I had learned earlier is how important it was to bring your whole self to work. And I want to encourage the people I work with to do that. I was formed in my adolescence by the terrible times in Argentina, the so-called dirty war. And that is a picture of my high school there. And I think that it wasn't truly until the pandemic and the work that we started doing at the LCOE that I felt that I was bringing all of myself to work. I want that it completely transform my relationship to work, and whatever that self is, I want for my mentees, for my collaborators, for people to feel that they can do it. The second is to be bolder. Ask forgiveness, not permission. And that took me a very long time to learn. We are cautious people, doctors, and you don't get to be a faculty member at UCSF without having jumped through all the hoops. And jumping through all the hoops makes one naturally a rule follower, and being a physician makes one a cautious rule follower. And that's okay, except when it limits the scope of our vision, and except when it limits how we try to leave our mark on the world. And I am really inspired by my mentees who are going out and doing different things, particularly the ones who are not in research, who are blazing paths and saying, why can't I start a program here? Why can't we do this? What about doing that? And I so admire them and learn from them. Which is the other message for my collaborators and mentees, to learn from both the younger and the older generations. And that I think that one gets older before one knows it. And there are always younger and different people coming along with different points of view, and to think about that as well as what's gone before. Find your community, find your allies. During the pandemic, here's just a tiny fraction of some of the people that we work with to create change. I see my colleagues here in emergency medicine who were so fantastic, as well as so many others. And I want to, I wish I could shout out each of them. So back to the umbrella. Here is a view upwards, and you can see the tangled branches, and you can see that off of a branch, another branch grows, and so on and so forth. And that is this road we're on. It's not going to finish, but like the umbu, we are a source of strength and a source of shelter to many, and that has given me more pleasure than anything else in my professional career. So thank you all very much. I'm deeply honored by this award.
Thank you, Dr. Fernandez, for the wonderful presentation. Bring your whole self to work, something I will remember. Be bolder. Ask forgiveness, not permission. I will certainly remember that. Certificate for you from the academic. Thank you very much. Now we will move to the second part of our ceremony, and we will present the winners of the Distinction in Teaching Award. The winners of this award are selected by a review committee that is chaired by a member of CAP and comprises one full professor and one student from each of the 4 schools at UCSF. The committee agreed that all the nominees for the Distinction in Teaching Award were truly outstanding, so winning this award is truly a great honor. Our recipient for the Distinction in Teaching Award for faculty at UCSF for 5 years or fewer is Dr. Rosny Daniel. He was nominated by Dr. Peter Sokolov and Dr. Maria Raven. Dr. Sokolov is professor and chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine in UCSF School of Medicine. Dr. Raven is professor of emergency medicine and the current chief of emergency medicine at UCSF. They will share a few words about Dr. Daniel.
Thanks so much. I'm really happy to present this award to Rosny for the distinction in teaching. And I'm going to be tag teaming with Peter. So I'll speak for a couple minutes and then I'll save some time for Peter. So, I think Rosny's focus, since he has been probably even a medical student here at UCSF, has really been supporting and helping people learn more about diversity, equity, and inclusion and anti-racism at UCSF, and also beyond. I just wanted to share a few things here that are representative, just a smidgen of the work that Rosny has done in this arena. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but he has worked with the and helps to lead the anti-oppressive curriculum here at UCSF. And that's focused on so many different areas: student support, optimizing support for diverse students at UCSF, preparing faculty for roles in medical education, optimizing instruction to dismantle structural racism and oppression in medicine and medical education. In addition, community partnerships, and then other communications outside of UCSF. So just to say, that's one part of what Rosny does, but encompasses so much of what is important here at UCSF, and I think what we're all striving to do. I also just wanted to mention just a few awards that Rosny has gotten over the past few years. It's astounding because these are all really amazing awards, even in addition to this one that we're talking about today. So in 2017, he got the Chancellor's Diversity Award. In 2019, he became a Watson Scholar, also no small feat and really, really just an honor. And in 2022, he got our academic Academy's National Junior Faculty Teaching Award. I wanted to mention Rosny got his undergraduate degree at Occidental. I'm going to let Peter say a little more about high school and save that for him. And then he came here to UCSF and has been here for medical school, residency when I really first got to know him, a medical education fellowship, and now we're honored to have him on faculty. I wanted to say just a little bit more about Rosny here. He speaks at conferences across the US. In addition to that, as a part of being the DEI curriculum director for our emergency medicine residency program, he's given and designed over 30 lectures in this role over in the past 5 years, and has organized over 40 sessions about this topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the curriculum and specific to emergency medicine. And this has included really innovative and important things like patient panels and trauma-informed care. I mentioned some of this, but for GME and in the School of Medicine, he is a part of the Justice Pathway for GME learners. And he developed a week-long intensive course, and there's also a longitudinal curriculum that takes people through a much longer course of education to improve communication and find opportunities to create equity and justice in the clinical practice of medicine, which is just, I think we all realize now, so important. Just a couple other things. Rosny has also done some really cool research He actually, I just want to, among other things, he applied for a section grant from one of the sections that I used to co-direct on health equity and social emergency medicine. And what I really was struck by and loved is that he wanted to use the funding to actually pay the community advisory board that was a part of that grant. He didn't want it for himself. He wanted to pay these people. And he said, this is work. They're putting in time and they deserve to be paid, which is so true. And I just thought that was really representative of Rosny. The last thing I'll end with, and then I'll hand it over to Peter, is that Rosny, you've taught me valuable lessons in communication, and I really appreciate that. You know, I've made some errors along my way as chief, as I think, you know, happens when you get a new role. And I think you've really helped to assure that decision-making in the department and outcomes are transparent and understandable. So I want to thank you for that. And I'm going to pass it on to Peter. Sorry. Last slide. I just wanted to put up some other highlights of Rosny and the other really important things in his life outside of medicine, friends, family, and pets, and his lovely dog who passed recently, Thierry.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us kind of tag team this a little bit. First of all, congratulations to all the award winners today. Really incredible group, amazing accomplishments, and privileged to be in the room with all of you and feel very privileged to say a few words about Rosny. I'll just say as chair, I kind of had my eye on Rosny since he was a resident. It was very clear early on that he was an outstanding educator and was also incredibly dedicated and passionate to advancing DEI and anti-oppression work. As Dr. Raven mentioned, won the Chancellor's Award for Diversity, the MLK Leadership Award as a resident. Pretty impressive to have done that. And so, of course, I was a little hopeful that we might entice him to stick around UCSF for a little bit longer. I was very glad that he accepted to be a medical education fellow with us. And then, of course, to stay on in faculty with us. And he's just done incredible work, as Dr. Raven highlighted just a little bit of. But Rosny is one of those people that I will say as a chair really makes the department look good. It makes you look good without you having to do anything, because basically you just need to get out of his way and he's going to do incredible work, which he has, of course, already done. Locally, he does amazing teaching. His colleagues love him, the residents love him, the students love him. One of many quotes from evaluations I just wanted to read. This is from a resident. Rosny's commitment to resident education is really commendable. He's so intentional about feedback, writing down names of the whole team, and clearly paying attention to your performance the whole shift in order to give useful, non-vague feedback that actually helps you improve and delivers it in a non-judgmental way. He stayed late to help interns with procedures, gives feedback on important non-scientific parts of care, like de-escalation. Really appreciate this commitment to the program and to the residents. And so, of course, locally, he did amazing things. And it didn't take long for him to hit the national scene as well. As Dr. Raven mentioned, lots of national work presenting at SAM. But one of the things I want to highlight is Rosny was invited to participate in a webinar for what's known as AACEM. That's the Association of Academic Chairs of Emergency Medicine. So these are all the emergency medicine chairs around the country having a meeting, a webinar to talk about DEI work. And Rosny was the one teaching all of us about forming DEI committees and how to do that work. And it's exactly what you want in education, bringing important work, important thought, and disseminating it to really help others. And again, that's 2 years into faculty. He's on a national webinar teaching all the emergency medicine chairs around the country. I thought that was pretty impressive. I was impressed. And of course, just like on a personal note, everyone loves Rosny. People love working with him. He's a tremendous educator and a tremendous person with great humility and really incredible sincerity and values as well. I will also add, and Maria kind of alluded to this, Rosny's kind of got also the cool factor. So not only is he a great educator, but people like hanging out with him. They want to be around him. And now my theory, Rosny, this is what I wanted to bring up, is that it's because we went to the same high school. Okay. Now it was a few years apart, but it's the same thing. But I'm not quite sure, because even back then, so apparently Rosny was on the football team and I was in the marching band. Okay. So I don't know, maybe it was something else, but he's definitely got the cool factor. So having said that, I just think, Rosny, you're incredibly deserving of this award. You've been dedicated to medical education at every single level, from students to residents to national education. Definitely a thought leader and a pioneer in DEI education. Even as an early career faculty member, you've definitely, you have certainly made your mark and continuing to make your mark. And I will just say one of the things that I think Rosny does for all of us is he really pushes us to both do better and to be better for ourselves, for our patients, and for our communities. I'm inspired by you. Thank you. You're very deserving of this award. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm like getting over an illness. That's why I'm keeping my mask on. And I'm sweaty, not because I'm nervous, but because I'm still getting over that. And I wore a sweater, which was not that smart. Thank you very much. Those words were very touching. And I appreciate all the people who've come to celebrate today. So I'll just go through my slides. So this was my family growing up. My mom and dad are both here. My brother's here too. My sister couldn't make it. But I have a niece in the audience, so if she shouts out, then thank you for that. And my girlfriend's here too, so thanks everybody for coming. I was really lucky growing up to have, I think, a mom and dad and family who are all very supportive of me. My dad's a family practice doctor, and he's from Haiti. So he's always kind of taught me that medicine is important and educating is important, and that we should be very lucky and thankful for the opportunities that we have. So I've definitely always thought about that throughout my life. And my mom's been a teacher and educator for her whole life as well, and actually currently works teaching incarcerated populations. So she's done some work kind of in the equity realm, and she's taught me a lot about education as well. So I'm really appreciative of that. And I'm also appreciative of how 90s these pictures are. I don't know, like, it's just kind of perfectly 90s. I remember like taking that picture on on your right, and it was like so hot. We were in Florida, so I was probably sweating like I am today. As Peter mentioned, I'm pretty cool. Well, sometimes. My brother and sister who are there with me often remind me that I'm not, and I think that's the most like 2000s picture of all time. It's not zoomed in enough for you to see, but I guess sports were cool. So Chance had a Chicago shirt on, and although he's not a Bears fan, and then I had an Abercrombie and Fitch shirt on, which is like, wow. I think I wore that to school once or twice too, a sleeveless Abercrombie and Fitch shirt with blonde dreadlocks. Man, I was really cool. And then I also, as Peter mentioned, played football. And the reason I bring that up and actually think it's really important is because sports has been a huge part of my life. And I think playing sports and learning how to kind of be on a team has been really important. I've been fortunate enough to be like captain of some different teams, played football in high school and then a little bit in college, and I actually played rugby in college, which was a great sport. And I think one of the biggest things that being on a team taught me was just how to recognize like when people are down and when people need support, and that everybody plays their specific role. So I always really liked working with teams, and my brother's actually a coach now. He coaches women's soccer, and that's been something that's been inspiring for me as well. And I've learned a lot from him in that aspect. So in college, as you can imagine, I was just like this stock photo from PowerPoint of someone just looking at books all the time. And then also we made a homemade ice luge and took, I'm pretty sure that's water, if you guys are wondering. That's my friend, Sarah. College was a really good time for me and a fun time to get to start to do some education as well. I was a tutor in college, and then I also worked at something called the Multicultural Summer Institute, which was really inspiring. It was a 4-week summer program that I did entering into college, where we basically learned some kind of traditional academic work like writing, mathematics, science, and then also spent a lot of time doing communication skills and education around DEI. So that's where I got a lot of my inspiration and started to kind of take off from there. So I did it before going to college, and then I worked at it the next several years before entering into each year and kind of getting to coach and mentor those students who were coming in. And I found that just getting to have those conversations and build community over 4 weeks was like such an amazing opportunity for us. And in medical school, another stock photo, none of those are me. I really enjoyed the first couple of years of medical school. Igor was one of my small group leaders, so we spent a lot of time together. I really, really liked how it was going. And then when we got to the awards, I was just like blown away by all the emotions that I had and realized how hard it was to be in practice. And sometimes I'd be really sad, and sometimes I'd be really happy, and sometimes I'd be really angry. And it was just a lot to process and different than I was expecting. And I realized that a lot of medical school, especially during third year, I felt like I was losing myself and who I was. Didn't really know what I was going to do. But that's kind of why I ended up choosing emergency medicine. That's me the night before my first shift. Chance, I think you took that picture. And I actually got a needle stick on my first shift. So I survived. I didn't get any diseases from it, but that was a pretty interesting experience to have that. But I think emergency medicine is very interprofessional. It's new learning every day. There's a really good mix of thinking and doing. There's some really amazing educators that are in our departments, and I think people feel really dedicated. And it's one of the few specialties where you're actually like with your senior residents and attendings at all time, and everything is just learned through conversation and communication. So I felt great about that. And what was really special to me is the flattened hierarchy. I think that so much of medicine is about like, oh, this person's up there, you can't talk to them, and we're down here. We do that not just amongst physicians, but we think about how much we do that to like patients, right? Like we're very, very dismissive oftentimes of patients and not thinking about them. We call them uneducated. We call them not having health literacy. I think those are all the wrong terms to use, and we need to refocus how we think about that and rebrand how we think about that. So in emergency medicine, I found that like, you know, we're walking up here today and I said hi to Peter and he gave me a handshake and made some joke, and Kat's like, isn't that the chair of your department? And I'm like, yeah, he's the chair, but I think that's just how we are in emergency medicine, is we all kind of respect each other. And I think that the more and more I can teach our kind of faculty and work with our faculty and work with our residents and our students and our patients to kind of respect each other and kind of keep that flattened hierarchy, the better it feels for me. Residency was a great experience for me. That is a completely staged photo of my friend Salman and I. We were on our ICU rotation and we were pretending to read EKGs, but really we were just catching up in the middle of the night. And down at the bottom, that's when we went to one of the ASAP conferences. I think that one was in Vegas. So several of those colleagues are people that I still work with today. I really liked in residency getting to do bedside and conference teaching. We started working in the CODA and COBE, which is for the medical students who are graduating. I got to understand more and kind of, I think as I grew, understand more about the structure of education and how it works and how we can't just change everything all the time, but we can kind of work through those things and improve. And I was a chief resident, which I really liked because that involved a lot of mentorship, basically doing therapy for many of the residents. And once again, seeing further behind the curtain and understanding how things work. So that was a great experience. And as a fellow and early faculty, one, I was smiling with my friends at the top, and two, I finally had money, so I bought a bike. That was cool. I think I was on shift with one of the senior residents the other day who's going to be staying on as a fellow, and she asked me like, what do you think is important about being an attending? And to me, I said, let's think about this. This is actually from notes that we made together on shift. And for me, it's about making a positive environment for the learners, really being available and not being, kind of walled off either physically or emotionally from your learners, giving people autonomy as much as possible, being really patient and letting people like make mistakes, leading by example. So, whenever patient is in the waiting room, I'm going to see patients in the waiting room too. And when people are feeling frustrated because they're not finishing their notes, like I'm going to see a couple extra patients myself too and finish notes as well and really lead by example and do differentiated teaching, because an intern doesn't need the same education as a fourth year resident, who doesn't need the same education as like a second year resident who's actually just really sad that day and just needs to like eat some food and feel comforted about whatever is going on in their life. And then really being honest and giving feedback too. So some teaching endeavors I've done, developed some workshops on curriculum development. As mentioned, I've led the residency DEI curriculum, which is interesting because now when we have new residents come, they're like, oh, we should change this, make it better. I'm like, cool, let's do it. I'm always willing to change things. And they're like, what's a model for this we can look at? I'm like, we created it here. So there aren't other ones. But I think to Alicia's point earlier, learning from the younger generations is really important because I have my beliefs, but they have their beliefs and experiences, which are totally different. And I'm always ready to learn more and try to be adaptive. Getting to speak nationally has been good opportunities for me. I've always said yes to any lectures I'm asked to do. Doing small group teaching within the School of Medicine and becoming an AOC ambassador. And then I have my Here Justice team here with me, Gabby and Bianca. It's probably my favorite thing I do because we're a small team of people that get along really well and get to do a lot of really cool work together to teach basically the people in GME, so residents, fellows, and some fourth year medical students about health equity, anti-racism, and justice. It's a week-long course. It's super fun. Probably my favorite meetings because we start them later, finish them early, and we all kind of get along and agree with things and do our work on our own, but can really vibe with each other. So that's been really fun. And I want to say the Watson grant for me has been really, really important because it's just given me time away from work to get to actually do these things that I care about that are often not funded. And everything is always locked up in bureaucracy at UCSF and at any other academic institution. So having something that's just like unearmarked funds to be able to support myself has been incredibly helpful. A few more slides. For teaching style, I like to make it personal, make it interactive, make it fun, make only 2 to 4 points and always end on time, know my audience, try to get everybody involved. I was thinking about the make it personal part. I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes during residency, and that's given me like a lot of time to reflect and think about what that disease process has meant to me and what disease processes mean to our patients. And it's really led me to be more open and bring my whole self to all the education that I do. Some people would call it emotional manipulation, but for me, I just call it, getting really involved with people. Lastly, those are some of the things I've taught about, not a full kind of list there, but it's been really fun. In emergency medicine, we do everything. So I get to teach everything, which is awesome. And then really important for me is continuing to have balance in life and make sure that I'm not just doing work inside the hospital. I think all of the things outside of the hospital are just as important, if not more important. So I try to really focus on those things and enjoy my life as well. So that's been very important for me. And my vision moving forwards is to continue to educate and continue to be honest with people. And I think continuing to do mentorship. I think that I get that we separate the teaching and mentoring words, but I think that both of them kind of really go hand in hand. And that's it. Thank you.
Dr. Daniel, the Academic Senate has the certificate for you in recognition for your outstanding achievement. Thank you so much. The recipient of the 2024 Distinction in Teaching Award from faculty at UCSF for over 5 years is Dr. Conan MacDougall. Dr. Conan MacDougall, and he was nominated by Dr. Igor Mitrovich, MD. Dr. Mitrovich is a professor of physiology and clinical pharmacy and co-vice dean for PharmD education at UCSF. Dr. Mitrovich will share a few words about Dr. MacDougall.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. Really, I'm really honored not only to introduce Conan, but also to be present here for such magnificent group of people who more than deserve all of the award. Some of you have known well, and I'm actually amazed, not about what you have accomplished, but how much I'm moved by everything that you have shared. So, few words about Conan. When a student comes and tells you, I want to be like Conan, and you are a faculty who is also a teacher, what do you feel? Well, first time it's like, okay, I want to meet them. When the second student comes, well, you start thinking, what is Conan doing? When another one comes and says the same thing, you're like impressed. So what is it that Conan does? Today in particular, you can find information about anything. Emergency medicine, palliative care. You can just Google everything. So what is it that teachers do? Teachers like Dr. Conan MacDougall or fantastic mentors like the reviewer or Roz. What is it to be a teacher in this era of easy access to information? And I would argue it's actually teachers inspiring. Teachers make people want to learn. And that is why my students tell me I want to be like him. What it really means is I want to do what he does because he has moved me where I didn't think I could go. And Conan doesn't do that only for pharmacy students. As an ID pharmacist and as other people that we've asked to know or help nomination have shared, and there's physicians there, there's fellows, there's students from other schools, all speak to that. Not only does the Conan share information, but Conan inspires across the realm of healthcare. Conan is also really, truly remarkable classroom teacher. I've observed him teaching. He is managing to not only inspire, but convey something that I found when I was in medical school very difficult. ID. It's really, a lot of lists of bugs and drugs. And for someone who is like me, who teaches physiology and pathophysiology, it's like, there are things that you teach easily because there are these processes and you can. In ID, you will have to teach pathophysiology and physiology of every bug. So how does one actually make something that is a lot of memorization approachable? Conan managed to find the key and unlock that, and students love it. So, and not only does he bring everybody in, excited to learn about bugs and drugs, but he's also on the cutting edge of education. He has done truly remarkable things thus far, but watch out, world. Conan is interested in using large language models in education. So Conan, I guess so. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Conan MacDougall. I grew up in the Bay Area around here. I'm the youngest of 7 children. That's me. I can't even stay still long enough to get a decent picture. As Igor mentioned, I am a pharmacist. I'm in the Department of Clinical Pharmacy. You can sort of read my bio here, where I went to school, and all that. So if you're interested, you can Google it. What you should not do is ask ChatGPT, because I asked ChatGPT to tell me about myself, and it came up with some wonderful stories that were not true. So I'm not actually a professor of medicine. I did not go here to medical school or do my residency in internal medicine at the Brigham. I am unfortunately not published in JAMA or New England Journal. You can double down on this. And in this other life, I went to Stanford before going to UCSF. And my department chair would love this other Conan that has all this NIH funding. That's unfortunately not me. In one of these lives, I ended up as a pharmacist, having gone to Brown and Rhode Island. But in all of them, I ended up in infectious diseases and in pharmacotherapy. And that is the area that I am truly interested in. So I'd like to thank all the folks who participated in my nomination packet, my dean, Kathy Giacomini, who is here as a teacher once upon a time here in the School of Pharmacy, still a teacher, still going strong. Igor, who is himself a previous recipient of the Distinction in Teaching Award, and who risked great family strife to be a nominator for this award because his wife was also nominated for this award. That's an excellent teacher. No idea. Apparently, she took my side, which I'm not sure was a good move. He's here. One of my former trainees and great colleague of mine now, Dr. Catherine Grunberg in clinical pharmacy. One of the physicians in the Division of Infectious Diseases, Dr. Jen Babick, and Jen's son and my son, they both play baseball. And we've met at different tournaments and things. And I didn't realize until now that her son had the advantage of being being the son of an accomplished college baseball player or softball player. So you learn interesting things on the internet. And then Dr. Candy Sarunas, here with my wife, Christy. Christy's the one in white, and who has been a teacher of mine, a mentor, a colleague. Apparently the person who pressed go on my application to pharmacy school. So I appreciate her getting me past that. Other nominators, former trainees, former student of mine, Jordan Brooks, who is now at Inside RX. Shannon Takar, who is one of my colleagues in the department now on faculty. And this is a terrible picture, except that it is in front of the UC Davis Department of Chemistry, where I spent a bunch of my time, so I couldn't resist this picture. Dara Drucker, former student, now resident in infectious diseases up at University of Washington, and some of our current students here at UCSF in the pharmacy school, Siavash Panani, Diana Lingarza, and Wong, all of whom and all of the nominators took time that they didn't have out of their day, the same way that Kathy and Jen are taking time that they don't have to come and support me through this. So I really appreciate it. These folks all, again, saw what I had done in terms of my teaching efforts and were willing to support me. But there's also a long list of people who supported me and believed in me. And these are sort of the people who believe in you more than you kind of believe in yourself. The original one is my sister Delia, who has always made me believe that I was Batman throughout all the years. A high school chemistry teacher who I never could actually figure out. She was only there for 1 year. And no one else remembers her. And sometimes I wonder whether it was real or not. But what I distinctly remember is halfway through the year when we had to pick our courses for the next year. And we were having this class discussion, and she said, in front of all the other students, well, Conan, if you want to continue wasting your time in the non-honors courses next year, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm not going to waste my time teaching you the rest of the semester if you don't do that. And so I can't imagine our excellent mentors would recommend that approach, but it was very effective in me seeing myself a different way. Some great mentors that I had throughout pharmacy school and residency, Danny Maddox at the VA, who unfortunately has passed away, who was my first instructor in infectious diseases. Bo Curry from when I did my residency at Duke, she was an ICU pharmacist. She believed in me enough to take a 2-week vacation during the middle of my rotation, leaving me the only pharmacist in the ICU, which worked out. I don't think anybody died, but she was a great mentor. I would probably be an ICU pharmacist today if rounds weren't at 6 a.m. ID, we come in a little later, so I appreciate that. All of my the leadership at the Department of Clinical Pharmacy, as well as all of my colleagues who work there and have been so supportive of me. And within the School of Medicine, so the Center for Faculty Development that allowed me to be part of the Teaching Scholars Program. And then the Academy of Medical Educators, who opened up their membership to teachers throughout the schools, which I appreciate as being a great way to advance education at UCSF generally. The folks, my colleagues, the physicians of the UCSF ID division, who have always been so welcoming of me in terms of being a colleague as a practitioner and educator. They would always get to the part of rounds where they just go, okay, Connie, all right, do the talk. You know, I know that you're going to do the talk on negatives or whatever. And you know, have always been there to support me throughout that. And then my biggest supporter and mentor from an educational perspective, Tina Brock, who was here for UCSF for a few years, is now bouncing around the world as she does. She describes herself as a global honeybee, going around and pollinating, excellent teaching. And so she really made me believe that, you know, I could advance as an educator, and that could really be my thing. And so she's behind a lot of the stuff that I do. And then, of course, all of my trainees over the years, all of the students in the School of Pharmacy, both that I've had a chance to teach in the classroom and on awards. I have also been the director of the ID Pharmacy Residency Program and had a chance to you know, teach individuals as a for, you know, the past decade or so, and mentor them through the program, and that's always been a great experience. And then, of course, the fellows and trainees in the infectious disease division that I've had a chance to work with. And then finally, most importantly, my family, my wife, Christy, who's here, who's a pharmacist and an award-winning teacher in her own right. My sons, Spencer, Elliot, and Miles, who inspire me every day, and may also be unattributed co-authors on some of my manuscripts. So, you know, we had some prompts around sort of our teaching vision, and just make a few sort of comments. One of them is, you know, what are your strengths that have led you to become a distinguished teacher? And I think really the main thing is that once I started teaching and started getting fairly good at it, I just wanted to keep getting better, in a way that I think is a little different than the sort of diffuse perfectionism that I think is here in this entire audience, right? It was the sort of thing that even it didn't make any sense to try and get better at teaching from a, you know, professional advancement perspective, but that was the thing that I wanted to put my time in. So a lot of it was, again, just this idea that as much as I had done, I could always improve on. And students really respond and appreciate to enthusiasm, but at some point, enthusiasm only gets you so far. And, you know, anyone who believes all you have to do as a teacher is to love to teach, you know, also has to believe that all you have to do is be a good surgeon is to learn to cut. And it is amazing how much time and effort, you know, all of the folks here invest in their professional training and what we consider to be sort of the minimal acceptable level of education to practice and apply evidence to all of our teaching, our practice. And yet most of us, the first time we teach, we sort of teach in the manner in which we had been taught, right? So it's as if, you know, you only ever learned to drive because you were a passenger in a car for your first 16 years. And so I really believe that one of the things that all of us throughout academia, but especially in health sciences, where it's really hard because, again, everyone dedicates so much time to their training, is an emphasis on really what is sort of the science of teaching and learning. And that there's really not a lot of opportunities to invest in that time for most folks. There's sort of the informal opportunities many of us get. And then there are an increasing number of opportunities that UCSF is providing through Center for Faculty Educators and others that allow some set aside time to develop as a teacher and to really understand, you know, what it is, though, that is the science of teaching and learning. I was very fortunate that I got to go on a 3-month professional development leave down in Australia with Dr. Tina Brock, and I got nothing done. I just basically read articles for 3 months, and I built sort of a foundation in understanding pedagogy that I had previously just been practicing on. You know, I sort of came back to teaching going, oh my God, I can't believe I was teaching in this way, when it's, you know, was not necessarily consistent with, you know, what we know about how people learn. But unfortunately, the way that our training and advancements is structured, it's really hard to find that time. So, that would be one thing, if somebody gave me a pot of money, would be to support folks who want to sort of develop that learning and understanding to a greater extent, and then sort of return back to their practice. So this is small, but this is sort of looking at the relationship between psychological safety and outcomes, and that sort of top right corner is the learning zone, where we have high expectation standards for performance, but we also provide, and where there is an environment that provides a high degree of psychological safety for our learners. And that we worry, and I think we spend a fair amount of time with learners, either being in the comfort zone of having safety, but but a lower level of expectation, or increasingly nowadays the anxiety zone, where our students, we provide high standards for our students, but they are not necessarily, they don't feel as if they have that level of psychological safety. Last week, we had the student-faculty basketball game, which we were finally able to resurrect after years from COVID. And some of the faculty and pretty much most of our students got out there and played basketball. And some of them were good, and most of them were terrible. And they didn't care, right? Like they played, you did the 3-point contest, and they didn't hit the rim the whole time. And everybody was just having a good, fun, supportive time. And, it just made me reflect on, having spent, the previous quarter teaching, of really trying to get students to engage in that environment, and seeing sort of the gap between sometimes what we're able to do, especially in large group settings, and where students can be naturally. So finding a way for that to sort of further develop that sense of psychological safety, and realizing that it is an ever-shifting thing, and that we can't just sort of say, well, we put this in practice and now learners should be safe, feel safe, but that we have to constantly sort of be recalibrating it. And I would say that it is something that the environment, it is a psychologically safe environment, and that's a construction of both the faculty, but also the learners. The learners have to also be able to take some risks in order to sort of to make a place where we can come together, and they can really get engaged, and everyone can get the most out of it. And then finally, as I think Eeyore has alluded to, and you've seen, I'm very interested in education technology. And I just got done. So actually, the course that I just finished teaching was in this room. And it's an interesting experience to look out in this room and actually see people's faces, and not a whole sea of laptops. And I think we've come to a place where educational technology, or technology now has a huge place in the classroom, but I'm not sure it's the place that we would have designed. I think it sort of has drifted into the place we were at now, where there's a lot of technology deployed in the classroom, but it's not necessarily in the ways that best support student learning. And we're sort of stuck in this place now because students are so used to this being a part of the environment that if you took away people's laptops or whatever in class, they wouldn't really be sure what to do. And we're not sure, we don't feel as if we can necessarily enforce that. The technology itself is neither good nor bad. It's a tool. It's a matter of sort of how we bring it, and then the norms that we create around it, right? And so, when the norm is that everybody has a laptop in class, it's hard to enforce other practices, even if we think those might be more effective in teaching. So we're sort of at this middle ground where we're very accepting of students bringing technology in the classroom, and we have a hard time excluding it, but we're also really not using it in the most effective way. I think if we really want to embrace technology, there are many, many more effective ways we can go about doing that. Probably the worst possible solution is recording lectures and putting them online for students to watch later, right? That is they neither get the benefits from being engaged in person, and they don't get the benefits from a learning experience that's designed to leverage that type of learning technology, right? There are many things that can be done with educational technology that can be very effective and can provide personalization for learners as they proceed through their learning journey, and we're sort of stuck in the middle. And we're approaching another inflection point in technology with the development of AI and these large language models. I would say that we probably kind of whiffed the last technology inflection point with sort of the wide availability of internet, social media. From an educational standpoint, I'm not sure that we harnessed it the best way that we could. And I really hope that as this next inflection point comes up, we can really take the time to deploy this technology in a way that is most supportive of learners. And I'm very excited that UCSF has shown a great deal of interest in this. There was a retreat just last week about AI in the educational realm. So I think that that's something that teaching may look much different in 10 years. If it still looks like this, then I think we've had a problem, because I think there's the model of continuous partial attention that students tend to display, at least in large group settings, doesn't do anybody any good. I think we either need to find a way for them to use these tools to learn on their own, which is flexible and allows them the best use of their time, or we need to bring them all together to teach effectively, but also to provide that sense of community and psychological safety. So that's all that I have. Thank you so much for this distinction and for your time.
The certificate for Dr. MacDougall from the Academic Senate in recognition of their outstanding teaching. Congratulations again to all our award recipients today. It is truly an honor to hear you speak and to have you here with us and be in your presence today. And thank you also to all our award review committees for their hard work in selecting the winners. It is not easy when you have such great nominees. So thank you to our committees that selected our winners. We have some time for questions. If there are any questions or comments from audience here or on Zoom. Well, if not, thank you everyone for joining us today, and congratulations again to our outstanding winners of the Distinguished Faculty Awards. And we have a reception out here in the lobby. Thank you again.